Well, it's easy to dismiss these people as unserious nut jobs. The problem is, they're dangerous. Sam Mirejovsky here. The What's Right show is on. Happy Friday, folks. Good to be here with you. Sam at whatsrightshow.com is my email. At What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. So here's the thing. In the wake of Wednesday's ICE shooting, Renee Nicole Good, the mom who was there in traffic blocking federal agents, she is asked to get out of the car. She then speeds up. She hits an agent. And yes, that is a development in the story. There is an impact, and we'll cover that here in a moment. There's video of it. But anyway, in the wake of her shooting, people are losing their minds out there. And the problem is I mean, they're dangerous. They're dangerous. They're just absolutely unhinged. And I don't think these folks are representative of the Democratic Party or the left writ large, but there's enough of them to give me great concern, to give me pause. We had a rally here, downtown Las Vegas, by and large a peaceful event last night, an anti-ICE protest. Always happens near my office in beautiful downtown Las Vegas. Gratitude to the sheriff, Kevin McMahill, for keeping things under control, as always. Now, I'll tell you, I think, I always say this as a parent of kids that have, I've got almost 3 teenagers. Next month, it'll be 3 teenagers. I'm always, it started my generation. It started when I was in school. When we began to lose sight of what mattered, raising kids, and I say this because I saw, I was growing up, and I had parents who were, immigrant parents who were old school European parents. When it came to raising us, my sister and I, they were very strict. And even though both my parents worked, and even though we were in some ways latchkey kids, which became common, in the 80s and 90s, certainly, my parents never felt too guilty about it, and certainly never acted on that guilt by going easy on us or spoiling us. But in the 80s, many moms went to work, right? We know this. It was a trend in America. And those moms felt guilty about their kids being at home. It's just a general thing. So the parents stopped parenting, and they started being very indulgent. And that indulgence was also sort of backed up with a trend in the country to focus on the child's self-esteem. Little Johnny's self-esteem was so important. And as, of course, these things happen, self-esteem and confidence and all come from achievement. They don't come from being told you're the best. It actually comes from accomplishing something. And you don't accomplish things if you're not persistent, if you don't have good character. And we stopped giving character development. Parents stopped, pushing their kids towards excellence. I mean, it's sort of broadly, right, in our country. And as these kids began to deteriorate, and I remember this in the 90s as a teen, parents would fix their broken kids not with tough love, but with medication. And there are people in this country in their 40s, my age cohort, my generation, who grew up with, absentee parents, who grew up in the as products of the age of rising divorce rates, who were, latchkey kids at home, and who, when they acted out, were sent to the doctor and told, well, little Johnny has ADHD or whatever, and they were medicated the hell out of. And that a significant portion of these people are crazy today doesn't surprise me in the least. I'm just giving you, folks, some perspective on this, that there's a reason why we see the type of people out there today that are sounding off on this. I look at this, the people out there in the street, this woman, Renee Good, should never have been out there. She had moved to Minneapolis apparently a year prior. She linked up with anti-ICE activists, a bunch of batty old women, through her son's school. It's a woke charter school. That's how the New York Post describes it. Well, you go on their website. I looked at it here. It says they say they put social justice first. And the school prioritizes, quote, involving kids in political and social activism. Dear God, what an insane thing to do. By the way, the kid's 6, so we're talking first grade. Imagine first grade. You're not prioritizing reading and writing. You're not prioritizing math. You're prioritizing social justice. These kids are all going to grow up to be dumb as a bag of hammers and wound up about things that really they shouldn't even be thinking about, particularly not at their age. These are indoctrination centers. And it's being run by and supported by, the administrators, the teachers, the parents, by people who are already teetering on the verge of complete insanity. A mother from the school named Lisa, that's 2 E's, can't even spell her name right, quote, speaking of the slain, Renee Good, she was a warrior. She died doing what was right. They have her down as some sort of martyr. And the more I look at this, I just think she's a woman who got caught up with the wrong group of people and was doing something she shouldn't have been doing. She was doing stupid things and winning stupid prizes, as the meme goes. Now, there's a point of view video either taken by a camera, I don't know if this is a body cam or a phone, where there's an agent that was hit by this woman. And nobody wants to say this. She was just sitting in her car. She was just driving her car. This woman was just minding her own business. Here is the full video that was just released overnight. I did not have this yesterday. And I am now more convinced than ever that this whole thing is absolutely a justified shooting. And that this group was set up to put people in harm's way in order to get this kind of flashpoint that could then be used by the politicians to score political points. It's shameful from top to bottom. Now, we've bleeped out the profanity. I want you to pay careful attention. Those of you not watching the video, it's okay. You can see the car. In the video, you see the woman's face. You see another woman, this batty lady that's next to them and coming up to the car, and sort of taunting the ICE agent. And then you can hear, you see it, but you can hear it too, which is why I'm playing it here on air. It's not all video. You can hear the impact of the vehicle into the agent and the shots, the subsequent shots that happen after the agent is already hit. Listen.
Change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Oh! There it is. That's the impact of the car into I think another parked car that was on the side of the road. It's tragic. I'm not making light of it. I'm just telling you, there's an impact. You literally hear, and you can hear it, an impact of the vehicle. She hit an agent. She hits the cop. Law enforcement officer, whatever, a lot being made of that as well by people. He's a law enforcement officer. It's a lawful order. Get out of the car. She's blocking traffic. She's in the middle of the road. Take the politics out of it. Is it a reasonable thing for a police officer seeing somebody deliberately park their car in the middle of the road to block all traffic to ask that driver to clear the road? And if they disobey that command, ask them to get out so they can be arrested? And she instead decides to run and either deliberately or out of panic hits an officer with her vehicle? So we're going to get into some of the reactions here from our friends on the left. I'm going to play it for you. I want you to hear it. Because these people are nuts. And they're reality deniers. That's the part of it that bugs the hell out of me. This could have been very different, by the way. The video could have shown an officer who was, in fact, trigger happy, who was, wound up and amped up from a confrontation. And it, and I've been here plenty of times on the radio criticizing our side, saying, look, I understand where they're coming from, but that was not okay. But here, I don't know. It's multiple people recording this. Alpha News, by the way, released this clip. Credit to them for getting their hands on it. All right, a quick break here. Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right Media Network.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Yes, it's me. By the way, little aside here, I saw this and I had to share it with you. Nancy Pelosi, obviously, her investing talents are known far and wide. Nancy Pelosi continues to make an insane amount of money, her and her husband, investing off of stock tips that Nancy Pelosi has been privy to as a powerful Democrat in Congress over many decades. Now, you also probably know who Jim Cramer is. Jim Cramer, he's the guy who's always yelling. What is that, CNBC is at? And he's yelling and he's always giving stock advice, and it's always terrible advice. So there's a group of people that run a portfolio, and it's called Cramer's Inverse Portfolio, because there's this thing called Inverse Cramer, which means whatever Jim Cramer says you ought to do when you're investing, do the exact opposite, because he's always wrong, or nearly always wrong. So Cramer's Inverse Portfolio, all right, in 2025 apparently beat Nancy Pelosi's portfolio. Pelosi had gains of plus 25%, Inverse Cramer plus 60. Well, I mean, Nancy's off her fastball. Clearly, number one, she's not in the power structure anymore, as she's just a retiring congresswoman, lowly retiring congresswoman, no longer in the leadership of her party. Still, she'd get some hot tips. So if you ever see Jim Cramer, it's so bad that doing the opposite of Jim Cramer gets you ahead of Nancy Pelosi, even in 2025, a year like 2025. Lots of gains that year. Okay. This ICE thing. Yeah, if you're just joining us, I'll play this. I'm just going to play this a few times. There's a video out now. Alpha News has a video. Credit to them for the clip. They got the video, point of view video from the officer, the first officer that was struck by the crazy lady, Renee Good. So I know it's tough to hear because you hear the impact on the officer first, and by immediate gunshots. This is how it sounded. There it is. It's a clean shooting. She literally assaults the officer with a deadly weapon, with her car. And the officers, what I like too, you notice that it isn't the impact, then clear, and then 2 seconds later shots. I want to make a point of this. This is very important. There's an imminency of threat perceived by the officer. No way does the officer, if there's a dispassionate jury, does he get convicted of this. Not possible. Based on everything I've seen to date, I'm always reserved to change my mind if new evidence arises. But this is very persuasive. Now, I mentioned these people are nuts. Okay? There's a yesterday protest, anti-ICE protest in Minneapolis. Some lady, older lady, screaming, "Shoot me, kill me, hurt me." Oh, this is tough. It's cringe. That's what the kids say. It's cringe. Listen.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Shoot me. Shoot me. Shoot me. Go ahead. Shoot me. Shoot me. Shoot me. You want to shoot me? You want to shoot me? Shoot me. Go ahead. Shoot me. Shoot me. Pepper spray me. Hurt me. Shame on you. I'm your grandmother.
Yeah, look, just shoot me. I'm your grandmother, she yells at the end of it. You're not my grandmother. My grandmother wouldn't behave this way, neither would yours. This is a mental health crisis. And I actually tell you that we've been solving mental health problems in our country via medication, starting with our youths as early as the late 80s. I know, I was there. Never took any meds. My parents believed in the spanking, right? Add a line, Sam, quick, bam. What I see, this Renee Good lady, and this is going to be a controversial thing to say, this woman never got a good spanking. I don't mean that. I'm just, as a kid, Robbie, she was a lesbian. That's not what I'm getting at here. No, I mean, I love my parents, and I am eternally grateful to my parents for being tough on me. And I remember, speaking of the whole movement of self-esteem, I remember coming home, and Robbie, you know my mom. I remember coming home, and I said, "Mom, whatever teacher it was, maybe it was, I don't know. I'm not going to name my teachers. Some of my teachers listen. One of my teachers had talked to us about how self-esteem is important. So I went home to my mom. I said, "Mom, you really need to do more for my self-esteem." I don't know if my mom dropped an expletive or not, but she might as well have. Get the F out of here with your self-esteem, Sam. Why don't you try accomplishing something, and then you'll feel good about yourself. Right? I mean, that's it. And this older lady, this lady that is older than me, by, I don't know, 15, 20 years, she ought to know better. This is crazy. And by the way, I don't yell at a cop, "Shoot me." Can I just tell you that as a pro tip, Sam? Pro tip. Don't yell at a cop to shoot me. But, if you're going to get very literal about this, you know what an assault is? The legal definition of assault. People don't know this. What do you think it is? It's not actually even getting struck. It doesn't even have to inflict injury. It's a harmful or offensive touching of another without privilege or consent. And if you unpack that, right, privilege obviously means if you're a law enforcement officer and you have a higher privilege than somebody else, like, look, you're fulfilling a function, or if you're a security guard, you have a little bit less than that. But the other one is consent. You look at somebody and say, hit me or shoot me. They can argue, hey, she consented. Don't do that, folks. Do not do this. It's not a good idea. I have looked at thousands, again, lawyer here. I have looked at thousands of body cam videos, bystander videos of police shootings. Do not go out there and say, "Shoot me, shoot me." What's that? Spank me? Well, depends on the context, I guess. But folks, I want to go back to, We got to go back to real parenting. That's my advice. If you're a young parent out there, you're thinking about maybe being a parent, you've got to be firm with your kid. And the number one biggest mistake that parents make is they're busy, they're working, and they feel bad. And so then they don't want to come home and discipline. Don't do that. And keep your kids off of meds. That's just a racket. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Be right back in a moment, folks. Don't go anywhere. No, I'm telling you, I've had a number of people reach out about this ICE shooting case from Wednesday. Renee Good, the woman shot and killed by the police after she evidently hit one of the officers. You can hear it. You can see it. The video is out there. It just came out overnight. So people were asking me, Sam, to put on your lawyer hat. Just look at it dispassionately. What do you think of this? And I say, well, listen, if they call, if her family were to call Sam and Ash Injury Law, I'd hear them out, and I'd feel terrible. Let's say it's a different context, right? You have somebody say, you know what, my loved one was killed by the police yesterday. I've gotten calls like that. And so you go, okay, well, let's investigate it. Let's look at it. You do a deep dive on it, and if there is a video of somebody reaching, literally reaching for a gun, holding a gun, driving a car that is a lethal weapon, it can cause either serious injury or death, and they're assaulting the officer with it. There's not a case there. If this was, Robbie's right. If this was just a traffic stop, if this was an ordinary, I hate to say this, if there wasn't a political context and you had a white police officer with a male white police officer, a male white driver, you would never even hear about this. You would not know about it. And all of the histrionics that are coming out right now wouldn't be there. This is taking on a life of its own. Other cities across the country are chiming in on this. The mayor of Philadelphia, not the mayor, the police chief, sheriff, whatever this hag is, complete DEI hire. She opened the press conference. I was watching this last night. She opened the press conference with, say her name. Say her, and doing the whole BLM thing. They just... this is these Maoists, right? So she gets up there, and Renee Good, right? So they're making a martyr of her. They're now they've added her to the pantheon of liberal icons. This lady that couldn't listen to directions from a man. Okay. This is the Philadelphia sheriff talking about how if this happens in Philadelphia, there's gonna be hell to pay. The ICE agent's gonna get arrested and tagged and bagged and sent off into the state of Philadelphia and in the city of Philadelphia dungeons.
Thank God for our district attorney Larry Krasner, who said he's gonna lock him up, and I'm saying now we are not gonna whisk you away for them to hide your identity, because when you do it there, you're getting arrested there. Law enforcement professionals do not shoot at moving vehicles. I'm not saying fleeing, because she wasn't fleeing. She was getting out of the way. And so we stand here today with all those who stand against the made-up, fake, what you can call ICE, professional law enforcement. I don't call them none of that. I call them made up, fake, wannabe law enforcement. Because what they do is against not only legal law, but the moral law. If any of them want to come in this city and commit a crime, you will not be able to hide. Nobody will whisk you off. You don't want this smoke, because we will bring it to you. And the fake, whatever they call them, because I can't say the name, but the criminal in the White House would not be able to keep you from going to jail.
There we go. The criminal in the White House. This is what it all comes down to. This person is in charge of law enforcement in the city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, where you are very likely to get murdered if you go out at night. Okay? This is a disgrace. This cancer, this brain, virus woke virus taken over our country and has rotted great institutions from within. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it. Here is what she said. I'm not saying she's fleeing because she wasn't fleeing. She was getting out of the way. That's what the top law enforcement officer of one of America's major cities just said in this tirade. You want to hear it? Here's her getting out of the way. That's her getting out. She's not fleeing. There was a lawful order, get out of the car. And she decides to step on the accelerator and accelerate into the cop. And you can hear it. I'm done. I'm not horsing around on this stuff. I'm not horsing. You know why? Because there's all these Trantifa, just deranged individuals who are promising to go after this officer. Listen to this guy. And there's hundreds, if not thousands of these all over the internet today.
To the ICE agent that murdered that unarmed civilian in Minneapolis, we have your face. We have pictures of you. We will get justice for a fallen comrade. Whether it be judicial justice or street justice, depends on whether or not you turn yourself in and admit to your crime. That wasn't self-defense. That was murder.
It was murder. We will work, we will find you, and we will kill you. Well, you know what? This what is he wearing? Is that a hijab? Is this a trans Islamist? Is that what we have here, Robbie? I don't know. No, it's a full-on face mask, but it's more than the usual COVID mitigation measure involved. This is like he looks like one of those ninjas, like he went to a Halloween party somewhere. Like some, I don't know. This is, but who killed Charlie Kirk? Right? Someone just like this guy. And that's why I'm saying it is easy to dismiss these people as nuts, but these nuts are dangerous. They're organized. And I hope the administration is aware they're playing for keeps. They need to get, we need to absolutely find people who are making these threats, unmask them, put them on the radar, take away their guns, right? I mean, this, no joke. This was the scene here in downtown Las Vegas last night. Just to know that it's even very close to home. We've got people out there who are reality deniers.
We actually went to Fremont Street first. That is where the protesters started walking around. They are walking in, looks like what circles possibly. I know they started here at the federal courthouse, then made their way towards the Fremont Street experience. This started around 4 o'clock today. Again, all we could hear is no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace. But you could just see police patrolling real slow by the federal courthouse right now.
And props again to LVMPD, and I assume deputy marshals were out there too from the city, to both departments for keeping a lid on this. The BLM people are engaged now. The BLM, they want to ramp this up into something. Here's speaking of no justice, no peace. Here's the Minnesota BLM chapter. They probably had to come back from the Caribbean, from their Caribbean island that they bought with the proceeds of their ill-gotten gains. to hold this press conference. Well, here's what was said.
This family should not wait for justice. And remember, we fought for Jamar Clark. We occupied a precinct for Jamar Clark. We did not get justice for Jamar Clark. But when the city burned, after George Floyd, all of a sudden there were some charges. So for those who are on the media talking about, don't burn it down, don't set it on fire, let me tell you this, we need justice and we need it now. Yeah. Because what happens after that is on your hands. All power to the people. All power to
Jamar Clark. Yes. Well, this came before George Floyd. Jamar Clark was shot in 2015, so this is 5 years before Floyd. No charges were filed against the officers, of course. And I mentioned this before yesterday. There was a $200,000 civil settlement, which is what you get when there's a lower standard in these civil cases, and you just pay to make it go away. The two officers cleared criminally. So you can imagine if you're cleared criminally in Minnesota, probably the shooting was justified. But they don't care. They don't care about Jamar Clark. They don't care about St. George Floyd. They don't care about this latest nut job to lay her life down for the cause. Renee Good. They don't care about these people. They're perfectly willing to have them be sacrificed for the sake of the political movement because they care about the movement above all else, and it breaks my heart. And the anger that I feel over this this week is that it was preventable. Charlie's death was preventable. Renee Good's death was preventable. What's the common through line? Weak, emotionally weak people getting wound up by the media, by Reddit, by politicians, some of whom right now are, as I keep saying, in a fight for existential survival, not just political survival, but staying out of prison potentially for the rest of their lives. No, I mean, this is a big deal. Got a little long. Got to take a break. Sam Mirejovsky here. Don't worry. I got more of these clips. They're so good, but it's worrisome how many people out there have lost their minds. Don't go anywhere. More of the What's Right show after this. Friends, allow me a quick word about Sam and Ash injury law. If you've been in an accident, if you've been injured, if you have a legitimate case, don't hesitate about calling a lawyer. Get advice. I always tell my friends, and I'm telling each and every one of you, it's hugely important to get some legal advice immediately, as soon as you possibly can. Because the insurance company, when you're dealing with the other side, even with your own insurance company, if you don't do things exactly right, there's a risk you'll end up upside down, owing money at the end of everything. Every day, I get calls here at the office from people who have been in an accident, tried to do it on their own, been good, palms up, communicating, sending in everything dutifully, acting like responsible adults. And then at the end of it, they go, oh my gosh, I'm like just... Yeah, literally. This morning, somebody called and said, I'm going to be $1,000 out of pocket on this. Well, that's a lot of money. And hiring Sam and Ash Injury Law doesn't cost you anything out of your pocket. That's an important thing to know, too. And instead of owing money at the end, you'll get money in your pocket. What's fair, what's right, because that's what you deserve. Sam and Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust for your injury case. Call today, 800-304-2000, 1-800-304-2000. Got offices in Nevada and California. Ian, Michael, Oscar standing by to take your call. Good people here in the office, and we look forward to talking with you. Sam and Ash Injury Law, samandashlaw.com, all spelled out, because you deserve what's right. All right, folks. All right, let me just tell you, these reactions. I mean, the Minnesota, there's a Minnesota City Council that had a struggle session. I mean, this is wild stuff. I pull this up here because I try to collect as many reactions from the end of the week over the shooting. This is a councilman, Jason Chavez, from Minneapolis. Okay? And he is an elected city official. He is calling for rioting. Listen to this.
As we continue to ask for justice for Renee Good, we're going to ask our community members to stay on alert. As a proud son of Mexican immigrants, I ask Minneapolis and Minnesota to rise up, to do everything in their power to defend our immigrant neighbors.
Rise up. Rise up. What do you think that means in a post George Floyd world, right? There's no ambiguity to that. Defend our immigrant neighbors. They want the city to burn. And you know what? I don't think it's going to have the same effect as it did in 2020. See, in 2020, guess what happened? All of that disquiet of the summer of George, and frankly, Trump didn't respond to it fast enough. People wanted change with Biden. They did. I'm not saying Biden won the election fair and square. I'm just saying he got a lot more votes than he would have had Trump come in and quashed this nonsense. But we had COVID. We had all this weirdness. And trust me, Trump remembers this. Well, we're not going back to that horse crap. And the reason they are fearful right now in Minnesota, a little bit about rioting too much, is because it will give Trump pretext to send in the National Guard. It's almost like Trump is itching because there needs to be some better cause for Trump to send in the National Guard. And the city on fire would certainly be it, and he'd be on stronger constitutional ground were that to happen. But nationally, right? Beyond the city of Minneapolis, you've got, MSNBC, MSN Now, and other liberal networks amplifying this message of this woman being murdered by ICE. Who was it yesterday? Hakeem Jeffries went on Chris Hayes' program on MSN Now, which I keep saying sounds like some sort of neurological disease. And Hayes is there. He's got Hakeem Jeffries. They're bagging on Kristi Noem. Okay, fine, that's politics. I mean, it is what it is. They're showing pictures, unrelated footage of Kristi Noem talking somewhere in a cowboy hat, maybe when she was governor. I don't know. I don't know what the footage is from. It's not recent, but the play is, of course, look, this unqualified, unserious cowboy in office. But behind the other B-roll that they're playing here shows signs of the victim, the shooter, the decedent, the lady that was shot and killed by ICE, Renee Good, murdered by ICE. Watch this.
Kristi Noem is deeply unqualified, deeply unserious, and deeply dangerous. She's a complete and total disgrace. She should never have been confirmed by the Senate in terms of holding this position. She lied to the American people, as she's been doing repeatedly, but in this instance, slandered a 37-year-old American citizen whose life was taken without justification by an ICE agent who showed depraved indifference to human life. That agent should be criminally investigated to the full extent of the law. And simultaneously, in Congress, we need to decisively respond, and we will.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Uh-huh. Kristi Noem slandered. This is what he's saying. This is the top Democrat in Congress. Slandered a 37-year-old American citizen, we're talking about Renee Good, whose life was taken without justification. Do I have to play it again? I'm going to play it again.
Get out of the car.
What comes first? What comes first? Is it the hit by the car and then the bullets, then the shots fired, or the other way around? I care about the truth, folks. Like, it's every time I hear one of these nincompoops out there talking about this, but what are they doing? They're whipping people up for their political benefit. These people are dangerous. That's what it is. It's just dangerous. Okay. It bothers me. It bothers me because there's absolutely no regard for truth. And that fundamentally, right, this is what we have here, the unholy alliance between the media, these extreme Democrat politicians, and, of course, these Antifa groups, these almost paramilitary so-called protest groups, but really they're dangerous thugs that have been funded and armed by left-wing liberal donors, and in some cases via NGOs, and still, living off the money that was sent to them by the Biden administration. It's just absolutely maddening. All right, top of the hour here. Got to run. Just hang tight. Lots to cover still in the next hour. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Friends, welcome to the program. This hour brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust for your personal injury case. 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000, because you deserve what's right. Now, I don't know if you saw this. People started hand-wringing when Vladimir Putin, Trump's buddy, or so they claim, appeared on Russian TV from an undisclosed location wearing army fatigues. Did you see this? And they're like, oh, this is new. We've just activated War Putin. Never mind that the Ukraine war is now it will be next month, almost 4 years in the making. So Putin showed up wearing camo, and everybody started freaking out. What message is he trying to send? So I thought, is Trump going to show up wearing camouflage? What is the Trump response to this going to be? And it was, it was pretty epic. Do you know what it was, Robbie? Well, I'll tell you what it was. I got it here. I mean, it's Trump sent the doomsday plane to LAX, okay? The plane that gets activated in nuclear war, basically. Sent it to LAX, the home of the most active airplane spotter community worldwide. Yeah, don't look at me like that. Let me tell you something. It's not coincidental. This happened last night. The doomsday plane, by the way, costs to operate something like $400,000 an hour. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend. But it never really operates out of commercial airports. I mean, it hadn't been to LAX in 51 years. That's how unprecedented it is. Now, what LAX has, if you've been to LA, you know this. LAX is just off the 405 freeway. And what does it come up to? It comes up to the 105, right? That's on that intersection. Anyway, it's right along the freeway, and there are runways that flank either side of the cluster of terminals that are basically at the center of the airport. And there are runways that are on the south side of the airport that are sort of less visible, but then there's a runway or two that are on the north side of the airport where people love to go to watch planes. There's a In-N-Out there, by the way. If you want to catch a quick In-N-Out if you're flying into LA or out of LA, great In-N-Out. And you'll sit there on the patio of In-N-Out, and these giant planes are basically landing over you. It's really cool. So they landed the Doomsday plane right there, and everybody's going, well, I wonder what's going on. I wonder what's going on. And 30 guys, 40 guys all took video of it, and it went viral around the internet. And I'm convinced it was just to make the Russians wonder what Trump is up to. Nuclear war? See, this is an example. The example of Trump people. Trump is a troll, right? He's a master troll. And somebody came up with this. It was a South American guy actually came up with it. He went through all of Trump's social media videos, and he found that Trump had taken a video of his team of him actually going and visiting Delta forces, weeks ago. And in the background, you can see a building. He's like, that's Maduro's compound. And Trump put out a video of it. Trump tried to get this problem done with Maduro with threats alone. Violence, military action was always last resort. And so Trump's team, it's not accidental. No, it's not. Trump's team had a video of literally of the same forces that ended up extracting Maduro. In the background is it's the compound, and they're blowing bombs up, and the video made the rounds. I didn't know. I mean, I'm not a military OPSEC guy. I didn't look at it and immediately recognize what was cooking. And but I can guarantee you that the intelligence services of our adversarial countries and even of our friends we're looking at this stuff very closely. Okay. So I'm telling you that Trump, this administration is operating next level. And of course it's a mind game. Of course, what we did in Venezuela last weekend is intended to bring Putin to the table. Of course, Putin showed up in fatigues and sent some big money bombs into Ukraine overnight. This happened yesterday. Of course that happened because he's trying to save face after he and his friends got booted from Caracas. Of course this is all connected. And by extension, of course, and I can't believe I have to say this, of course, Trump is not in Putin's back pocket. The same people that are claiming that Renee Good was shot in cold blood by ICE, are the same people that claim that Putin has mountains of compromise of material. He has Trump in his grasp. Yeah, it's all nonsense stuff. Yeah, look it up. I'm gonna retweet this this post about this. It is a message. The 747 Doomsday plane. This is something else. Well, I'm telling you, it does not get flown around to airports, to public airports, non-military airports very often. So where are we with this? Yesterday I said Venezuela is starting to make some overtures to Trump. Big news overnight is that they've released a bunch of political prisoners. I know how Marco Rubio operates. This is very important to him. He understands political prisoners. He understands what happened to his family and his friends in Fidel Castro's Cuba. He knows these people are not actual prisoners. So the presidential candidate that in all likelihood won the 2024 election, he just got released. He had been in prison since last January, so a year. He was released. So again, I'm trying to explain it to some of you who are a little still skeptical about Trump and what they're doing. But Sam, the communists, they're still there. Look, I'm not here. Trust me, folks, if you know anything about me, I don't like communists. I would Pinochet these people so fast your heads would spin, okay? But hear me out. Trump has a choice. He has seen, and we should learn from the disaster that was Iraq. We went in, boots on the ground, successful military operation, no two ways about it, even though lives were lost. And we got to Baghdad. We took over the government. You know, we arrested all the top functionaries. We had the deck of cards. Remember the 52 most wanted? Remember this? You know, it's all happened in our lifetimes, right? So we go 52 card and going in top guys. Some people I know were charged with finding these fugitives. We eventually found them, whatever. And the country broke apart because the people who knew how to run the country and keep things in order were gone. And in that power vacuum, disaster followed. We ended up with an insurgency. Now, Venezuela is a different country. The entire purpose behind what Trump is doing is going, okay, we plucked Maduro and his wife, who, by the way, is a central figure, a strong figure. That was very important because the country could have rallied around her. But instead, Maduro gets removed. In comes Delcy Rodriguez, whatever her name is, the new acting president, so declared by the Supreme Court of the country. And she's making a lot of nasty public noises about the U.S. and trashing Trump. But I'm telling you, based on the actions, allowing Trump in to cooperate on oil, releasing political prisoners, clearly she and the Venezuelan government have gotten the message from the United States loud and clear. Play ball or suffer a fate equal to or worse than that of Nicolas Maduro. That's it. I mean, it's happening, and we don't have to invest. We don't have to go put boots on the ground. We can just sort of threaten them from afar with space lasers. Hey, we're going to fry you if you don't do what we say. Saves American lives, gets the job done. And in time, by the way, folks, the government this government will collapse and crumble. A real strong opposition leader selected by the people with that credibility will come in, will take control of the military. It just is not going to happen overnight. No, this is what it is. Okay, quick break. Sam Mirejovsky here, as per usual, on the What's Right Media Network.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
So how is the economy doing? That's a question a lot of you are asking me too. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. I got to tell you, CNBC ran a story about the trade deficit. This was fascinating. The trade deficit. Numbers like this have never been seen before. Here's the report.
I'll go up. This is unreal, the movement in this number. Minus 29.4 billion. We cut it basically in half. Just consider this. In March, it was 136 billion. Right now, it's a whisker under 30 billion. We haven't been that small in a long time. I don't have enough records here to go back that far, but you're going back a ways.
So the trade deficit, since the beginning of Trump's term, cut in half. Wow, that's impressive. Now, what does this mean? Well, again, the Trump's focus here is on rebuilding our economy. And if the Democrats were who they purport to be, the people of the working classes, this would be great news. This would be an agenda item that the Democrats would embrace wholeheartedly. You know, it's also disingenuous, right? The Democrats' policy on immigration, disingenuous. It's not really about helping immigrants. It's about boosting their political prospects. Their foreign policy is not really about protecting Ukraine. It's about enriching their friends in various special interests. And side note on that, if we're going to mention Ukraine, I always say this, we're almost 4 years in. If Biden had wanted to truly end the war, he could have sent the weapons, he could have sent everything they needed and given them the permission to use them. Go at it. If that was really what they wanted, but they wanted this thing to drag on because they understood that the longer it went, the greater of a cause and a pull at the heartstrings it would be, the more Congress would fund it. And incrementally, everybody that had some, relationship to this thing and had some procurement function or role in it would get more and more money. It's perverse. Ukrainian and Russian young men, families, people, everybody died to make these government insiders fatter than, fatted hogs. So it's just it bugs me. All right. So they're disingenuous about that. And they're also disingenuous about helping, the workers of America. Every time Hakeem Jeffries says, oh, things are going to be more expensive now. They're more expensive because of Trump's trade wars. Understand what he means. In a quest for cheap goods produced outside of the country, we are and have been gutting our working people, our industry. And we have been shedding slowly, systematically, methodically, and steadily industrial jobs. And look at who has factory jobs now. The developing world. Look at who has a strong, working in middle class. A lot of our former adversaries. And we did that. And what have we traded? We've traded cheap goods that can be afforded by people, I guess, who did not lose, their factory job. But the cost has been enormous. And you can go across America where you visit once thriving towns that have been completely gutted. Gutted. And what has it been? It's been globalists and it's been environmentalists between offshoring, business and jobs to cutting coal mining and other, harmful environmental practices that have, everywhere you look, we are suffering from self-inflicted wounds. And I tell you, that's one of the things, here that we're going to, I think that we're going to get at. And it's one of my worries, right, with the midterms, because with the changes Trump is making, think about a giant ship, one of those, an aircraft carrier, for example. Okay, that is our economy. That's our country, right? It's this giant ship, and you can't just turn it on a dime. And we were headed at an iceberg. The Biden years had us headed at an iceberg. We're just headed there, steaming full speed ahead, and course correcting. It doesn't happen quickly. The indicators are starting to come through that things are going to be a lot better. Trump, again, pushing down on the price of oil. That's a huge part of the Venezuela story, whether the administration admits it or not. I know it's a huge part of the story because, of course, this week the administration has been in talks with Venezuela's oil-producing company, the state-run company that, of course, confiscated all the Western-owned refineries. So they're in talks. They're communicating about this. They're negotiating. So it's a thing. Well, now it's. I know I've seen the jobless. Things are still a little bit shaky right now. But make no mistake about it, I don't know if Kamala Harris had become president. I just come back to this. If Kamala Harris had become president, can you imagine? We would have continued printing money. We would have continued on the same path that we were always on. We would have doubled down on the same system of failure, and we would have continued to build a fake economy on fake principles. DEI, woke, not merit, not accomplishment. Rewarding metrics in the economy that have nothing to do with actual productivity, actual economic expansion. I listened to a great interview with a woman who had formerly worked for Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank's a big, multinational bank. And she talks about all the DEI, all the ESG, social credits, factors and they got rewarded by it was all nothing. They had funds that lost money, but the entire point of it was to be environmentally and socially responsible. And they would assign random numbers, right, to these funds, and they would sell it, and the banks would make billions. And then ultimately people lost money, right? Pension funds lost money. People got taken. That's all it is. It was all fake. The entire Biden economy, the entire world globalist economy is fake. And what you have is a wreck of basically burned out towns across our country, shuttered factories, people on drugs, no pride, no self-esteem, quote unquote. The Dems care so much about self-esteem. Give people their dignity back. Give a man a job. But the left doesn't want that, because then that person is self-sufficient. And the goal here was always to have more people on the take than we're producing, so that we would be governed by social democrats. That is what was intended from the beginning. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Back in a moment. The whole what if Kamala Harris had become president, I know JD Vance says that it's going to be the biggest dummy that wins in 2028 or gets the Democratic nomination, suggesting that Kamala Harris may well be in the mix. I'm not so sure. I don't think she made very many friends along the way. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. I have, this just is a great clip. Kara Swisher, who is a notorious lib. Kara Swisher, she sat down for an interview to share her experience. This is a podcast interview where she mentions an anecdote about Kamala Harris from the campaign. Now, in this clip, she tells a story about something she and Kamala shared a joke about off screen, off stage, behind, preparing to go out in public. And then a very different, opportunistic, one might say, Kamala Harris came out once in front of the audience. Have a listen to this.
I just had an experience with Kamala Harris where we were joking about something backstage about Robert Kennedy Jr. It was specifically around circumcision and autism, the link. He was making a link, which is not there. And then when I got on stage and mentioned it, she looked at me dead and said,
"People will die because of what they're doing. I can't laugh about that. I'm sorry."
And she had just laughed about it. And then she went into this sort of high-handed kind of thing where she was like yelling at me.
Kara, it's personal for me.
I was like, I'm going to kill you. I literally can't believe you just did that.
But I can, right? I mean, these people love to weaponize words, right? And they don't believe in anything. Every moment along the way is an opportunity to score a point and get ahead. Now, politics is cutthroat. Don't get me wrong. Republican politics is cutthroat too. All right. And it is. It's the nature of it. But the more confidence you have as an individual in who you are, the more comfortable you are in your skin, the less you do this kind of stuff. Like, I mean, you run for office. And I always imagine this, and I've certainly known a lot of people who have run for office, and the few politicians that I am actual friends with, I can tell you, they are the same person, off stage as they are on. And that's something I value. Trump is very much like this, by the way, himself. And he's just an extremely genuine person. And he's becoming even more so over time, less and less filtered. He is. No, he is. Remember during the remember during the first day of Hanukkah at the White House, they had a Hanukkah dinner. And Trump, one of the aides in the White House gets up and he does, he does a prayer. He does speaking in Hebrew. And Trump gets the microphone afterwards. He goes, I didn't know you were that Jewish. Just unfiltered, right? But he's just a real, that's what he would make that joke behind closed doors, is my point. And he's making it in front of the cameras. Just doesn't give a rip. And even if you don't like Trump, you at least have to appreciate the fact that he's real. Nothing about Kamala Harris was real. And nothing is real. This is where it gets dangerous, right? It's one thing for her to turn on an ally for a quick, glib moment so she can feel like, she's making a point. It's another thing entirely to use this kind of, use disingenuous rhetoric and stir people up. Let's look at the ICE shootings, right? Look at what they were, what the Democrats have been saying with this crazy. The ICE shooting this week, right? This, the lady's there and in her car and she's blocking traffic. ICE agents turn on their lights. They go, look, we got to get by you. You're blocking the road. She doesn't move. She then is told to leave the car. She speeds up, hits an officer. This is all because she's been amped up by people who for a year have been telling her that ICE, are equivalent of Nazis. And who are these people? Are they Republicans? Are they conservative podcasters? No, they're elected Democrats. And that is what's so maddening about this. This is for, since Trump has come into office, Jasmine Crockett, Tim Walz, Hakeem Jeffries, Pritzker, Newsom, they're all in this together saying the same thing, the same smear about ICE, but people are paying attention to it. And they know it's disingenuous. They know it's not real. It's no more real than what Kamala Harris did on stage with Kara Swisher. Listen.
But as somebody who understands history, when I see ICE, I see slave patrols.
Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans wearing masks.
That's the SS and the Gestapo. This is the United States of America. Unmask yourself.
Campaign of terrorism on our communities, of going in and kidnapping people and human trafficking them.
This is not the Soviet Union. We're not behind the Iron Curtain. This is not the 1930s.
This is Gestapo-like behavior, terrorizing immigrants who are doing the right thing.
When you compare the old films of the Gestapo grabbing people off the streets of Poland, and you compare them to those nondescript thugs who grabbed that graduated student, it does look like a Gestapo operation.
You shouldn't have to walk around with papers the way that they did in the early days of Nazi Germany.
Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here.
This is just insanity. And one of these people in this clip, certainly, I believe, will be the Democratic nominee in 2028. Certainly, I would say at least 80% of the people in this clip want to become or are thinking of becoming the Democratic nominee. So these are people who want to lead the country. And this is what they're doing. And who are they appealing to with this? Well, there's enough people out there who are broken. I got into that last hour. And this is another clip. I didn't get to this last hour even. This is wild stuff, right? I mean, the people that are out there, the members of the public, these crazy, woke, democratic, socialist wackos. There's one lady who actually went up to Brecca Stoll, who's with the Daily Wire, and gets interviewed. This protester, she's like, I'm just dazed. And then, she didn't even feel that she was worthy of crying for the slain martyr. A woman killed by ICE the other day, murdered by ICE. Listen to this.
So, I mean, I'm just walking around kind of just dazed-eyed because I was like, I don't know if it's the right thing to do. It feels kind of wrong being here in some way. I don't know why.
And why do you think, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, like, where that stems from. Like, I mean, part of it is being like a white woman that I'm privileged and I have a lot of privilege. So I feel like white tears are not always something that's helpful or necessary when black and brown people have been experiencing this for a long time. This isn't new for them. And so I don't know if that makes any sense in that way.
No, it actually doesn't make any sense. I mean, it actually doesn't, right? I mean, this woman is saying that her white tears are inadequate or are not worthy of this. You live in Minnesota, you live in Minneapolis, and a woman your age, a mother, dies. Whatever the politics are behind it or the circumstances behind it, you're allowed to feel emotion. I mean, I'm not going to say you're not. And the same movement that has whipped people up in a frenzy and put the mother of young kids in harm's way like this, made her do crazy things like stand up to armed police officers, made her drive and hit a police officer. Those same people are turning around and making other women who are similarly situated with similar mental problems, telling them that they can't even cry over this because they're not, quote unquote, good enough to cry over it. I am convinced that the Democratic Party, the new Democratic Party, whatever the hell this is, want us all out of work, want us all insane in the head, okay? So that we are absolutely dependent on them, on the government. If we're all taking, right? If we're all broken, they sure get a lot of power, don't they? Our founding fathers never counted on this. They expected that we would be a fiercely independent people, a self-sufficient people, and that by and large, most of us would want to be governed and would vote for people based on that mindset. It's just wild to me, right? I'm almost at a loss of words. By the way, the Trump administration doing something I'll get to in a moment to undercut the fraud, Minnesota fraud, the Somali fraud. I'll tell you what specific thing they're doing that is going to make a big difference, I think. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Folks, I'll be back in just a moment. Greetings, friends. Welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Okay. One of the components of this fraud action, all this stuff going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota, is that money is being sent out of the country. So these Somali fraudsters are, raping financially everybody they can, stealing money from the taxpayers, right? This is federal money in some cases, so it's our money. It belongs to all of us. And then they're sending it out of the country. They're sending it offshore. And Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, explained that one small critical change has been made recently now as they're looking into this fraud, and they're basically, well, I'll let him explain.
So there's something called a suspicious activity report if a certain amount of money gets wired
$10,000, right?
So we're lowering that to $3,000.
Oh, good.
And we're also targeting the 2 counties here, and we're going to do enhanced surveillance. And from now on, anyone who wires money out from one of these money service businesses has to check a box saying whether they are on public assistance. And if you are on public assistance, we are going to start pushing that you cannot wire money out of the country.
Oh, gosh. Well, what if they lie and they don't tell us for public assistance?
Well, then
That's a crime, lying on a federal form.
We're going to follow it up, and we are going to push that you can no longer do that. The American people, our generosity has been taken advantage of.
Our generosity is funding al-Shabaab, in Iranian interest it could be.
Well, the money.
I mean, this is really bad.
The money is supposed to go for alleged asylum seekers and their families and children. And if you are wiring the money out of the country, one of 2 things must be true. You are getting too much money and your benefits should be cut, or you are part of this conspiracy.
Yeah, I mean, why are you sending wire transfers if you're getting welfare? I mean, I have a question, right? I mean, why? Listen, I'm going to say this. I didn't send any wire transfers until I was a fairly well-to-do individual of some means. I mean, I suppose there's some instances where you might, but but these people are sending giant wires out at the same time they're collecting public benefits. I mean, what the hell? Well, this is Just the News had an article about this related to this. Apparently, there has been there's a probe going on, a federal probe of hundreds of millions of dollars in cash in luggage leaving the Minneapolis airport. Officials said most of the cash detected in luggage involved a small number of money couriers of Somali descent. Aha! The routes were to Dubai via Amsterdam, usually from Minneapolis, but other times from Seattle, Dallas, Columbus, and Atlanta. So the TSA found nearly $700 million in cash. And it's last couple of years. So what they're doing is just explain it to you is they've been. That's why I believe this will be easy to prosecute, because the fraud's gotten sloppy. They're just collecting as much as they possibly can. Just absolutely, they don't even care. There's no real kids going into the daycare center. They don't care. The entire thing was a smash and grab operation. That's why J.D. Vance said this whole thing is not like Lex Luthor level stuff. It's just all so banal. The fraud is so simple. These people are simple people. They're, they're not bright people. And so they go, oh, well, we don't want to trigger, any problems with wires, so we're going to go and just pack our bags full of cash. Well, if you got more than $10,000 cash on, you're supposed to declare it at the airport. I mean, that's a fact. And that's just the thing. If they're not declaring it, then it's subject to seizure. I know, Robbie. It's not my favorite thing either, but the Homeland Security is on it. They're figuring it out, but there's simply no reason to be carrying hundreds of millions of dollars in cash out of the country. There isn't. Now, the Somalis are threatening. Have you seen this? Yeah, I've seen a number of these guys come forward. Here's one guy in Maine. Apparently, they're everywhere now. Threatening us, threatening the Democrats, protect us or else.
My name is Mohammed. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Somali community in Lewiston. Some of you sitting here today, we voted for you. We elected you to protect our community interests, not creating division or go after one elected member from our community. If this narrative continues, our community will be forced to re-examine our relationship or political relationship, including our relationship with the Democratic Party and who will be voting in the future.
My goodness, this guy is dumb. Mohammed, you are stupid. You literally just, first of all, you don't talk about quid pro quo this openly, okay? Let me give you a clue on America. He's demanding that Democrats in the city stop investigating a Somalian refugee named Imam Osman. He's supposed to be sworn into the Lewiston, Maine City Council, even though he's under investigation for fraud and possibly lying about his address to run for the seat. That's a big problem, by the way. Here in Nevada, in the time that I've lived here, there's been a handful of politicians who've been arrested and gone to jail for no other crime than simply not living in their district. That's it. You have to, it says there in the law, you have to live in the district. You have to live in the city if you're running for a city office. If you don't live in the city of Las Vegas, you live in unincorporated Clark County, for example, here in Nevada, you can't run for a city office. Simple stuff. Where you live matters. So this, a whole other charge, a bunch of charges against this guy, and Osman has apparently resigned as his criminal charges have been going, but he literally get threatened by these Somalis. There have been other clips. We've played them here. And he's so obvious about it. It makes me, when you put it all together, I keep saying this fraud is not just isolated among a handful of individuals. And it is not distinct and separate from the Democratic political machines across the country, okay? That's the critical element of this. This fraud that is going and happening at a national scale was done in concert with the Democratic Party. Mark my words. And the jubilant and fiery J.D. Vance that we saw in the press conference the other day is clearly a consequence of him looking at the evidence, looking at some of the initial stuff coming in and feeling like they've got these people dead to rights. It's going to get interesting, folks. 2026 off to a bang. God, we're already ready for the New Year's Eve highlight reel. You imagine? All right, folks, listen, have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Stay away from Trantifa. They're dangerous. They may have limp wrists, but, well, they have limp other things too, but they are dangerous and can pack weaponry of all sorts. All right, Robbie, there. We ended it on a high note this week. All right, see you later, folks. Be well. The What's Right show brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve it.